So God has done something pretty special here, don't you think? I think every church planner and the spouse of the church planner wonders when they started a church what it's going to look like, and will we ever have a permanent facility. For those of you that are new to us, we've met at a movie theater for the last 5.5 years. And if you had told me this time next year that we would be in a new facility, I would be pretty shocked, because I've watched property for years and years and years, and it's hard to find affordable property around here. And if you had told us that we'd be in a building that we owned and we didn't owe a penny on it, I would have not believed you. And I believe in a big God, but that would have been a pretty big stretch for my faith. And yet here we are. It's pretty spectacular. For those of you that don't know, we had a donor donate about $550,000 to this gig to get it done, and including part of the remodel. And then you guys donated another $30,000, $40,000, and so much of your time. There's people in the room right now that have spent literally hundreds of hours in this room and in the other rooms back here prepping this place and remodeling the place. And so we're going to celebrate later. Right now, because of coronavirus, we're doing things a little different. We didn't get to have our grand opening on Easter, and it's kind of a trickle-in effect, but eventually we're going to have our grand opening, and we're going to thank all those people personally. But let's give them a hand right now. It's just unbelievable what God has done. But I think about this. I think about this building and what it means, and I've been thinking a lot about what is the purpose. So when we refer to Progress, we're referring to 4801 Progress Boulevard. That's where you sit right now. So when I say what is the purpose of Progress, I mean what is the purpose of this building? And I'm not sure everybody thinks the same way I do, but I think about the money to start with. We've got $600,000 wrapped up in this place now, and I think $600,000 could have gone a long way towards beds for refugees, or for the homeless, or for orphanages, or for people in addiction recovery. That we could have provided scholarships for tons and tons of people in addiction recovery, and instead we put it in a building. And I personally question that decision. I'm not positive. I'm even still not positive that's the right decision when you have that kind of cash available to you. That's where you spend it. Where is the right place to distribute that kind of money? And so I've given a lot of thought to what is this building about? And ultimately, if this is just a social club where we come in and we sing some songs and we clap and we enjoy it, we've wasted our money. There's something more to it than that, and there's got to be more to it than that. That this has got to be an investment that pays dividends well more than what we've got in it. Ultimately, I hope many refugees will find beds because of this. I hope many people in addiction recovery will find freedom as a result of this. And this, in the clip that you just saw, that was Jesus, obviously, and it's from the VidAngel series, The Chosen. And if you haven't seen The Chosen, you have not lived at this point. You've got to watch The Chosen. The Chosen is just absolutely brilliant. And I went into it very skeptical. I think most Christian attempts at television and movies turn out pretty lame-o. But The Chosen just was riveting. Just from start to finish, it was just amazing. So I encourage you to watch it. But in that clip, what you saw was Jesus picking up a few followers. He walked up to Matthew, the tax collector, and he said, "Follow me." And as you saw in the clip, he dropped everything and he followed him. And ultimately, you guys sit here today because of that. Ultimately, that had a trickle-down effect from Matthew and Peter and Thaddeus and the rest of them that we'll talk about in just a moment, till this moment where even among the COVID crisis, you guys are willing to come to church and gather together and be a part of a community. And there were a lot of people between there and here. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of orphans that were given homes. There are a lot of people that were hungry that were fed. There were a lot of prisoners that were ministered to, because that's the Christian message. That's the Christian concept and idea. And so ultimately, I believe the money is well spent. I think we're going to encourage one another to serve our community and to serve the people around us and to love well and to be free ourselves. And we did 2 weddings this week in here. I saw Quan and Seglinda in here. Where are those guys? Back here, they got married this week, so congratulations. And we did a wedding yesterday, and I'm already coming to realize that we could rent this place out probably every weekend throughout the year for pretty good money. And so we're going to talk as a board about what percentages of that are going to go straight to charity every single time. And I would like a large percentage of that, 50% of every penny that comes in, something like that. That's what I'm going to pitch to go out. And if we do that every week for a year, that money is going to start to add up, and it's going to create a pool, and this will turn into an investment. And then you add people like Abby who are going out on the streets and meeting people in recovery and meeting people who are living on the streets and bringing them to church and taking them to to get medical help and taking them to get addiction recovery help. And I think ultimately this is going to be a dividend, this is going to pay dividends that pay off. I think it's going to be worth it. But I want to talk today about kind of the kingdom motif of how Jesus did things. Jesus grabbed a few people and trained them up, who grabbed a few people, who grabbed a few people, and then ultimately the world was changed. Right now there's over 1 billion people on the planet that call his name. And a good portion of those are going to be highly charitable people and highly loving people. Not all of them, but a lot. But I want to point out when Jesus called his disciples, and this was in Matthew 10 is where you find the passage I'm about to quote. And I'm gonna show you the list of them. It's pretty funny. If you ask most Christians today, can you name the 12 disciples? Most of us would fail at it. We'd start with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we would be wrong automatically, right? And so here's the list, but I want to point out that there's 3 that are standouts in this list. There's 3 that there's something mentioned about them that's different than the other 9. And I want you to key in on that as you see the list. So he talks about it. He says there was Simon, who is called Peter, Andrew, his brother, James, son of Zebedee. So now you're seeing him talking about names and family, right? John, James's brother, Philip, Bartholomew, and Thomas. Apparently there was nothing absolutely noteworthy about them. Matthew, the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. What are the 3 that stand out?
Judas.
Well, Judas obviously stands out as the hook-nosed loser of the bunch, right? There's 2 of them that the passage mentions kind of what they do. And I think this is really, really important when we start to examine who Jesus called and what was Jesus' motive in all this. And it was here, Matthew the tax collector, who you saw in the clip. And then Simon the Zealot. This is not Simon Peter. This is not Jesus' right-hand man. This is somebody else who actually doesn't get a whole lot of mention in the scriptures. But there's Matthew the tax collector and Simon the Zealot. Now, the tax collectors were renowned for being traitors to their people. They were people who had, so the Jews were occupied by Rome at this time and treated really terribly. We don't have time to go into it, but it was pretty bad. And lots and lots of people were hoping for the Messiah to come and rescue them from the Romans, because the Romans were oppressing them so heavily. And the tax collectors were ones who got on the Roman side. They said, hey, I'm going to milk this for all it's worth. I'm going to make as much money as I can, and I'm going to be a traitor to my people. And so basically the other 11, who were probably all good Jewish boys, hated the tax collector. But more than that, there's this one. Besides Matthew the tax collector, there was Simon the Zealot. And the Zealots were kind of a radical group of people that were completely, totally, militaristically opposed to the Roman occupation of the Jews, of the Jewish area. And so the Zealots would hate the tax collectors, and the tax collectors would hate the Zealots. These were 2 men that had nothing in common, that absolutely hated one another, and they're noteworthy in the passage. You'll notice they get pulled out of the passage. That whoever wrote this wanted to make this point when they wrote the passage, was that there were 2 people here. I mean, these were as polar opposite. This was the uber left and the uber right coming together following the same rabbi. This was the Aryan Brotherhood and Black Lives Matter. This was, it was people of radically diverse opinions and radically different ideas on what God should look like and what God should do. And Jesus said to both of them, come and follow me. And then it says about Judas, what did it say about Judas? The one who betrayed him. So he doesn't even just call good religious people. He calls the one that he foreknew would stab him in the back. He called the bad guy. He calls the good guy the bad guy, the left and the right. And he pulls them all together and says, let's change the world together. And when I think about Daylight Church and I think about where we go from here and what progress looks like, that ties into me. There was Judas who betrayed him. And so what that means is, doesn't matter how good you've been, how bad you've been, how correct you are, how incorrect you are, Jesus is still extending his hands and saying, come to me. And that was something Jesus said in the next passage. So he calls his disciples in Matthew 10. He says, hey, let's all get together and let's go change the world. And then they go out to change the world. And this is what that looks like. Jesus gets out in front of a big crowd. And it says, after Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, He went from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. So he starts his public ministry after calling his disciples. And here's his message. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. I want to note what it did not say. His message to the people. So he calls his disciples, says, let's go change the world. And then he preaches to the people. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. He didn't say, come to me, all you who are holy. He could have easily done that in this Jewish culture, the sanctified, the pure. He could have said, the righteous people, all you righteous people, come follow me. But that's not what he said. He said, the tired, the burdened. Those are the ones I'm ministering to. He didn't say, come to me, all you who are politically accurate. I know this rubs us the wrong way in today's climate. And I'm not saying political accuracy is unnecessary. I'm just saying that when Jesus went out, that wasn't his primary message, was let's get all the people that think right and put them in a group and use them to change the world. He didn't say that. He didn't say, come to me, you right people, you thoughtful people. He said, you that are tired, come to me. He didn't say, come to me, those that are super duper wise. I mean, you get it. You've got this whole thing under a wrap. You're good at this stuff. You're good at life. Well done at life. You know how to think through things and how to live properly. That's not who he wasn't calling the ones who live proper or think proper. Who did he call? The tired, the burdened. That was his message after he called his disciples. And then he said, I will give you rest. He didn't say, I will make you more holy. He didn't say, I'm going to make you more pure and more righteous, which is not to say that he doesn't address this in other passages. I'm just saying at the initiation of his ministry, this is where he went. He didn't say, I'm going to make you pure. I'm going to make you righteous. He didn't say, I'm going to help you vote well or conquer the Romans. He didn't say, I'm going to give you discernment out the wazoo. I don't know what a wazoo is, but I think you don't want your discernment coming out of it at any particular time, I don't think. But he didn't say that. He didn't say, come to me and I will fix you, did he? He said, come to me and rest. Stop striving. Stop trying. Stop working so hard. That's what you come to me for, is what his message was. He said, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Now, as I've already mentioned, this does not mean that we shouldn't attempt to be more holy or righteous. We should live pure. We should live holy lives. I think that's part of the Christian message, is that God cleanses us and cleans us. And it doesn't mean that politics and voting don't matter. I'm not saying that at all. They very, very much do matter. I'm not saying God doesn't want you to have wisdom, because he very much does want you to have wisdom. But when we talk about the foundation of all this, where does it come from? What is the place that all this occurs in our lives? It doesn't occur from the message, you got to be holy. You got to be wise. You got to be politically correct. That's not where the message is at all. The message is there's a place you can come to rest. And in that place of rest, you will learn all these things. And God will do. And listen to that. God will do all these things, not you. He said, I will give you rest. I will bring you to a place of peace. I will bring you to a place of shalom, was Jesus' message. Not you bringing yourself to peace, not you bringing yourself to shalom or rest. So when I get to the question, back to the question of what is the purpose of this building and what is the purpose of this $500,000 that we've sunk in and thousands of hours of time putting it into a facility, what is the purpose? To me, it has a whole lot to do with progress, or not progress, but posture. And so I want to talk about the posture of progress. What is our posture as a church? And when I was thinking about this question, this was the symbol that came to mind. Anybody know what this is? It's something mumbling about South America. That's exactly, absolutely accurate. Yes, it's Christ the Redeemer, the statue that stands over what country? Brazil, that's right. And it's up on a hill for all to see. And I've been thinking a lot about this posture. That this is, God's really smart. Like, he knows some stuff, God does. And it was prophesied how the Messiah would die. It was predetermined, the method of his death. And thus, it was predetermined what posture he would die in, right? Now, when you die, you could die in a ton of postures. You could die defending yourself, or fighting, or running, or just laying in a lump. There's all kinds of postures you could die in. And if our Messiah died in one of those postures, how would the necklaces look different now? How would the icons of the church look different? But somehow, some way, God thought, you know what? this is the posture I want them to see me in. This is the one you see him in all the time. This is how you see Jesus. Every person, is it Sao Paulo? Is that where this is? That's what I said, Rio de Janeiro. That's right. You're absolutely correct. Every person in Rio de Janeiro can see that every day, God in this posture. What does this posture say? Yeah, it says welcome. What else does it say? I'm here. What else? I love you. I mean, do you want a hug? That's right. It's called Christ the Redeemer. And so this is the posture I want to see Daylight Church in. If we're going to represent Jesus for our community, for our city, for the world, somehow this has to be a part of who we are and built into our DNA. Jesus said this. He said, when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw all people to myself. Can we agree that this is a welcoming posture? This is a posture of drawing, beckoning, right? One of my favorite passages that you guys will get sick of hearing in here is the prodigal son. And the prodigal has gone and wasted his life and done all kinds of bad things and told his daddy basically wishes he was dead. But then he returns to his dad because he sees that life out there in the pigsty isn't a great place to live. And it says this. It says, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. What do you think that looked like? Wouldn't that be the posture? He runs to him, throws his arms around him, and kisses him. It reminds me of this scene from The Passion of the Christ where Jesus as a little boy falls down and Mary sees him fall. And it's in a little bit of slow motion, so it'll take a moment to get there. But she notices him and runs towards him. Somehow this posture, this idea of running towards with arms open feels like the gospel message to me. Somehow posture is a part of how we communicate the message of Jesus. And it's not just to the good guys. That's what you see in Scripture. It's not just to the holy. It's not just to the wise and the well-learned and the righteous. It's not to those people. In Romans it says this, all day long I have held out my hands to a disobedient and contrary people. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how resistant. It doesn't matter if your fists are up like this. His arms are like this. It doesn't matter if you're pushing away. His arms are open. Whether you're disobedient and contrary or whether you're reciprocal, doesn't matter. He stays in this posture. He has etched himself into this posture for all of history to see. And it should be the posture of the church. To me, there's a few things this posture says. One, it says, do you see me? I see you. Doesn't it kind of say that? I see you. You see me? There's something about let's connect to this posture. Can we also admit that it's a posture of vulnerability? I mean, you're putting yourself at risk. If somebody's up like this, ready to fight you, and you put your hands out like this, you're liable to get hurt. The posture of the cross was not a posture of protection. It wasn't God safeguarding his reputation or his truth even so much as him saying, I'll take it. I'll take whatever you got. I'll place myself in a vulnerable position. I had the privilege of interviewing two co-pastors of one of the faster growing churches in America this last weekend. And one of the things that the co-pastor said was that we're trying to develop a platform, not a pedestal. And then went on to elaborate about that, how that so even me as a pastor, I get this great privilege of sitting up in front of you, in a dark room with lights on me, all eyes on me, right? That's what's happening in here, and there's no getting around it. That's the truth. So what is the purpose of what I'm doing up here? What is the purpose of when Paul gets up here and sings? Is it so that they sound good and everybody thinks, wow, they're a great band, or is it to point towards something bigger and something higher? And I want to make sure that we stay in a vulnerable posture that says, listen, we're not what's important here. We're not on a pedestal. We have a platform, and we're going to use that platform, but there's nothing special about the people that are up here. We're learning just like you guys. We're growing just like you guys. We're tired just like you guys. And I want to make sure that's part of our posture and our DNA as a church, is that we don't elevate anybody above where they need to be elevated. Obviously, this is a posture of welcoming. It's a posture of, come on in. The water's fine. Here we are. We're glad you're here. And you know what? The posture of the cross never changes. The posture doesn't say, well, we're glad you are here, and we're glad you're here, that doesn't happen. The posture of the cross doesn't change. The posture of the crucifix never alters. It's etched in stone forever. God wanted us to remember him in this posture, not a selective posture that says, but open to all, open to everyone. These pastors I was interviewing mentioned compassion over condemnation and the importance of being life-giving. I pray and hope that when people come to Daylight Church and they meet our greeters and they hear our music team, and even when they hear our announcements and they hear the sermon and there's prayer after the service, whatever they experience here, I would love to know that never does anyone ever leave condemned. I hope nobody ever walks through that door at Progress Boulevard after a service and says, wow, well, they just beat the crap out of me that day. But instead that there was life. And again, this isn't discounting the need for change in our lives. We need change, but how do we get people there? Do we get people there by beating them up and telling them how bad they are and how awful they are and how they're not right and not good? Or do we show them what is wonderful? Show them what is awe-inspiring? Show them what is affectionate and empowering, and let them experience those things and experience change through that? And I'm a believer in the latter, and I pray our church will be as well. And then finally, I've been thinking about this one passage in Scripture that just doesn't fit in the COVID portion of our lives at this point. It's greet one another with a holy kiss. And in our hyper-sexualized world where sexual objectivity occurs constantly, even the thought of a kiss, we put up our defense mechanisms automatically. But this idea of the holy kiss is mentioned multiple times in Scripture. This isn't the only passage where it happens. And we did a mission trip to Peru last year. And one of the things I loved, and I'm an introvert. I mean, I don't like people very much at all. But one thing they did in Peru, and for some reason it ministered to me, it affected me. The affection affected me, is they will kiss you when they meet you, the very first time. And some of you are like, that is freaking me out right now, and I'm never going to Peru. But so just so you know, when you see people in Europe, so you go to France or whatever, and they kiss on the cheek, your lips never actually touch the cheek. This is a rule. And so you're going to gross somebody out if you actually kiss them on the cheek. But you put your cheek against theirs and kiss the air. And this happens in Peru. I mean, every church, when you go to set foot in a church for the first time, you're going to get kissed like that by 30 people before the day's over. They're greeting each other with an affectionate kiss. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what that looks like for Daylight Church, because I don't want you going kissing on me. That's not what I'm asking for. But somehow we have to find this way of being legitimately affectionate towards one another. That when somebody walks in here, they feel and experience the love of God and the love of people. And right now we have to elbow bump, which is so dumb. I don't even know what that looks like. But I pray that we'll be a church that's affectionate. That we somehow, we live in a world that somehow poo-poos affection at this point. And I hope we won't be that church. I hope we'll be affectionate towards one another. Again, I can't articulate what that looks like, but I pray that we'll be affectionate. Is this not a posture of affection? This is the posture he wanted to be remembered in. This is the posture he wanted to be etched in stone for all time into, and it is an affectionate posture. It says, I'm making myself vulnerable to be close to you. And I pray we'll be that kind of church. So here's what I want to ask of you today is, if we're going to emulate this posture of warmth and affection, if we're going to emulate a posture of vulnerability to the world, if we're going to emulate the posture that says, I see you, do you see me? What part are you going to play where the church, lowercase c, is concerned? Because ultimately, if this is just a building, it doesn't do any of these things. The building doesn't do this. We tried to shape the building where it feels that way, where the potential for that is here, but you guys are the arms extended. The scriptures describe us as the body of Christ. What does that mean when you think about this? It says some are hands, some are feet, some are legs, some are eyes. What part are you going to play? I know Rusty earlier during the announcements talked about at My Daylight Church, there's a Join the Daylight Crew thing, but it goes way beyond that. Sign up. do stuff at the church. But more, be aware of the person sitting next to you. Be aware of the person sitting behind you. Be aware of the person walking in for the first time, especially if you see people that come in and know no one, especially if you see people that come in and they hang their head and they're not engaged. Be aware of those people. Do not let Progress Boulevard be a social club for you. Again, we want the community. We want the social aspects of church. But I hope and pray that'll never be all that we are.